Welcome back. And my prison gang lecture is missing a few slides, so you probably are not going to see that. However, I've already finished one lecture on why people join hate groups and those hate groups, and it's still linked a whole lot with gangs. But now we're going to talk about the Latin Kings. And we're going to discuss the street gang known as the Latin Kings. This is a quote, the motto of the Latin Kings: cowards die many times before their death. Latin Kings never taste death but once. Okay. And there's a whole lot of truth in this. And I don't know, I'm kind of thinking that the Latin Kings plagiarized this. I think that it comes from Henry V, Shakespeare. Also comes from The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Anyway, cowards die many times before their death. This is a true statement. And the Latin Kings will never taste death but once. If you're a coward, you're going to cower and you're going to run away. You're going to avoid confrontation, and you're going to, and every time you have an act of cowardice, you are going to, in turn, you're going to die. You're going to die over and over and over again. So the Latin Kings defined: love all those in the nation, kingdom, inspiration, nation, govern. This is Latin King is an acronym. Okay. It is a group. It is the oldest and largest Hispanic street gang in the country. It has its roots dating back to the 1940s. Some will tell you the 1960s, but everybody agrees that it started in Chicago. The gangs were created, the Latin Kings was created to protect the Latinos or the Hispanic population from the Polish and the Jewish gangs. Okay, if you remember me talking earlier, and in another subject or another issue, what we found, concentric zones or concentric circles suggest that whoever's the majority population inside the inner city, that's who you're going to find in prison. Okay, well, it's just the same thing with gangs. Okay, whoever's the majority in the inner city, you're going to find that they are running the gangs. So in the 1940s to the 1960s, the majority population in the inner city were Jews and Polish, and the Polish, and they had these street gangs, and they targeted the Latinos or the Hispanic population. And the Latin Kings was created to fight back. This gang was formed in small coalitions to protect and preserve their own identity, their own culture. They aspired to personal, social, economic needs of the people. Okay, so just like when we were talking about the African American gangs, the Bloods and the Crips, the People Nation, the Folk Nation, and the Gangster Disciples and the Peastone Rangers, they all started as a cultural heritage community organization. And they organized within the community to help the members of the community socially and economically and financially and through education and all of the different things that are afforded and offered within the community. And the Latin Kings were no different. Okay. The Latin Kings have been labeled as one of the most organized, most violent, and most powerful criminal organizations in existence today. When compared with most street gangs, the Latin Kings are more structured, they're more organized. Their rules are strictly enforced. Some members celebrate January 6th as King's Holy Day. It is a Catholic holiday. It is King's Day. King's Week is the first week in March, also tied to Easter and all of these Catholic holidays. Most of the Hispanic population is Catholic, and there's a strong link to Catholicism within the Latin Kings. The almighty kings and queens have spread their religion of kingism, twisted off of Catholicism, to all 50 states. They've established chapters not only in the United States, but in Ecuador, Peru, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Spain, the Dominican Republic, over Europe, as well as into Africa and Southeast Asia, wherever you find a Hispanic population, the Philippines. They are aligned with the People Nation. They operate under the five. The colors are yellow and black after the flag. Some of the characteristics, they're well structured. Like we've already said, the gang is well structured. They're well organized. They have a strict charter, detailed charter or constitution within their ranks, and members are expected to follow those rules. Their motto is once a king, always a king. They also have an all for one mentality, a one for all and all for one. If one king is in trouble, all the kings show up. That's just the way that it is. They have an internal discipline is a high priority. You are more likely to get disciplined within the Latin Kings than you are by the government. Violations can result in a suspension from the Latin Kings, termination, being kicked out of the Latin Kings, physical assault, and or death. That's just the way that it is. It's the way that it's set up. Granted, their motto is once a king, always a king. So, they might be suspended for a little bit. They might be kicked out of the gang, but they're always a king until they die. Sometimes that's necessary. Most of the Latin King factions accept females, and their main focus is to control the drug trafficking and internal gang discipline, both within the prison system and the community. Some of the symbols of the Latin Kings, the letters, LK, the ALKN, the AKLN, and the ALCN. A lion, the sun, the diamond, a 5 cross, the figure of a king's head, known as the master, a 5-pointed castle, 5-pointed crown, the number 5, and all of these symbols are consistent with the People Nation. The 5-pointed star, in terms of identification, each of the 5 points of the star has its own representation: love, respect, sacrifice, honor, and obedience. Their graffiti may have a picture of a crown accompanied by the initials LK. They're often found to have some sort of inflammatory symbolism aimed at an opposing gang. A lion or a lion wearing a crown with a variety of other inscriptions may also be seen. Again, they identify with the colors yellow and black. The crown. Each chapter has maintained their own hierarchical structure. The leader is the Primero Corona. He's the biggest crown there in the middle. The second in charge is the Segundo Corona. The third is a warlord or the enforcer. The fourth is the counselor, he's a teacher and a trainer. He teaches I guess we'll call it the recruitment academy for people that are wanting to join the Latin Kings. The fifth crown is the treasurer. He collects the weekly dues. He collects the fines. He maintains the balance of the money that is allowed within the Latin Kings. That's a picture of King Shorty. Okay, the nation constitution establishes the Ten Commandments for the Almighty King Nation, or the Almighty Latin King Nation. The members of the royalties, the guidelines for establishing a chapter, how to create the gang, who is in charge of the gangs, and the royalty or the leadership of the gangs is all created in the Constitution. The leadership at the top level, the nation level, utilizes titles with the High Holy Inca in the primary leadership role. The second in command is known as the Supreme Chaquiqua, the Royal Crown, etc. Okay, so the structure. King Felipe was incarcerated. He produced many loyal Latin kings who, upon release from prison, hit the streets and recruited more. These loyal soldiers established chapters throughout New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and King Felipe was the leader of all of these groups. These chapters were called tribes. They used animal names such as tiger tribe, wolf tribe, lion tribe to label the different chapters within the Felipe tribe. Estimated at the max that there are about 100,000 members of the Latin Kings worldwide. It is multiracial. However, you're required to have a Hispanic background. Okay, to join, you must be beat in for a period of 3 minutes. Okay, no hits are allowed to the head or the groin. You get the arms, the body, the legs. For 3 minutes, you're beaten half to death. Okay, the kings refer to the female members of the Latin Kings as queens. When a Latin king blends his life with a woman, regardless of her descent, the association with the Latin King's nation, she becomes a queen by law. She doesn't have to be beat in. When they have a child and they bring a child into the world, that child automatically becomes a prince or a princess within the Latin King nation. They don't have to be beat in. Amor del Rey is a common greeting between the Latin kings. It's Almighty Father, King of Kings, hear us as we come before you. One body, one mind, one soul, true wisdom and knowledge and understanding. Give us strong brown wisdom, for we realize that you are the best and the wisest of all seeing eyes. They're multiracial, but you have to have a Hispanic background, and they want strong brown wisdom. Now we're moving into the Latin Kings, possibly being a racial supremacy group because they are looking at and seeking brown over everything else. Okay, the Latin Kings are almost cult-like, the way that they worship the Incas. Prosecutions in the mid-90s unearthed accusations of a highly sophisticated cult, directing beheadings and burnings and bombings and beatings and murders of outsiders and people that quit the Latin Kings. Okay, you're going to see that they have black and yellow necklaces, black and yellow beads, cryptic sign language communications, as almost a ritualistic lessons and rules of conduct, which are taught to you by the counselor. Just This was found in Rikers Island. Some of the symbols: the 5-pointed star, love, truth, peace, freedom. Love, truth, freedom, justice. And peace. The Almighty Latin King and Queen Nation. Okay. The diamond is representative of prosperity. It represents the celebration of the nation. Or the champagne glass respects the celebration of the nation. The $5 bill sign represents the making of money. The Playboy bunny represents the growth of the nation, because we want to breed like rabbits. Again, the 5-point cross represents the almighty nation again. Just some symbols, and we found this just drawn on a sheet of paper at Rikers Island. Some more information that was found in that information that was gathered talks about the pyramid, the different squares of the pyramid, the different steps, the 21-step pyramid, and the different symbols and their meanings to the Latin kings. The 1980s, Felix Millet and Nelson Milan were 2 inmates in the Connecticut prison system. They created the Connecticut branch of the Latin kings. They fine-tuned the concept of the Chicago gang. They emulated what was created through the King. Wrote the King Manifesto, which those 2 pages that we did before came from that manifesto. This manifesto was their rules, procedures. It was a concept guide, and it explained kingism and what kingism was. It was a very well written, and it was took into effect or account just about any issue that could come up. The word of Millet and Milan spread throughout the Connecticut prison system, and soon the Latin kings became the largest prison gang and street gang in Connecticut. In the 90s, Luis Felipe was calling himself King Blood, took the Connecticut King Manifesto, added a few of his own writings, added a few more prayers, and he formed the Almighty Latin King Nation of New York at the Collins Correctional Institute. He was serving a long prison term for attempting to murder his girlfriend. Within a few years, the Latin King spread throughout the New York prison system into the streets and is one of the largest gangs in New York. By the 1990s, several hundred members grew into several thousand members throughout New York and New Jersey. There was a documentary, I think that's King Antonio. I think it's on the next slide. King Anton made a documentary about the Latin kings, and this was one of the stills from that documentary. King Tone, that's his name, Anton, King Tone. He was a leader in the 1990s and 1996. He was spearheaded, and it seemed like he had control over all of the East Coast Latin kings. His name was Antonio Fernandez, or King Tone Fernandez. He attempted to polish the image of the Latin kings. He created this documentary. He worked with the media, the newspapers and magazines, trying to change the perception of the Latin kings throughout the country as a Hispanic pride group, not much unlike the NAACP or the Black Lives Matter. But these guys are, it's a street gang, and they're dangerous. He advocated a brotherhood of men and women trying to better their lives through education and unity and working together. He went on a mass media spree, like I said. Until he got the attention of the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. In 1999, a joint investigation showed how they were taking grant money and he was using it to finance drugs. He was charged in New York and New Jersey, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, narcotics possession, weapons possession, and murder for hire. He pled guilty to the charges related to his arrest, denounced the Latin Kings in the federal courtroom, and got a 10-year prison term. And this was in '99. So in 2009, he was free again. So currently at the very top is the Sun King, or the Inca. His name is Raul Gonzalez, also known as Baby King. He is from Chicago and is out of prison. He is a Corona. He has control of all Latin King operations outside of the prison system. La Corona controls the gang's activities. Gustavo Colin, Lord Gino, is now in prison. So these guys are, they've held their positions unchallenged. Nobody goes against them. Okay, these positions of authority and leadership transcend individual chapters. These guys are the nation Incas. They are the shot callers for every Latin King gang in the country, including the kings that are hanging out in Big Spring. Latin King leaders have recently allied with the African American cultural group, street gang called the Zulu Nation. A lot of cities on the East Coast, like Boston, the Latin Kings, and Netta have established an uneasy alliance over the drug trade. The Latin Kings have been at war with the Los Solditos off and on since the 90s. And you can find them in the prison system. Like I said, King Tone is there. King Blood is in prison. They're a highly organized security threat group that need to be watched. Latin King leaders have been able to infiltrate the ranks of correctional officers, prison, correctional officers, and law enforcement officers, and U.S. Marshals. The Latin Kings have been able to draw all kinds of people into their organization. Okay, so with that, I am going to end my little discussion on the Latin Kings. I'll see you next time.